Good morning and welcome to Michigan Matters. I.Detroit is a fascinating new exhibit coming to the Motor City, which will tell the story of the city through the eyes of 100 people. It will include art, science, and personal stories. We have 3 people with us who are involved to give us a preview of what it's all about. Then the roundtable's waiting in the wings to talk about issues impacting our region, including the latest in the efforts to fix our roads and education. It's a show putting our state's largest city in the spotlight and much more. Today on Michigan Matters.
From CBS 62, this is Michigan Matters with Carol Kane.
And we're pleased to welcome Lashinda Stair, the first assistant chief at the Detroit Police Department, who appears also in I.Detroit, which we're going to talk about. Marcus Lyon, an artist who came up with the idea for this exhibit and book. And Wendy Jackson, managing partner, Detroit of Kresge Foundation, who was helping to sponsor the event and the whole exhibit. So good morning and welcome, folks.
Good morning. Thanks for having us.
So, Marcus, when I first heard about this whole exhibit that you're doing, this I.Detroit, it is so intriguing. And how do you describe it?
We talk about these projects as human atlases. So we're looking at a place or a space through the eyes of visual, spoken and genetic information, bringing those 3 pillars of identity together to tell deeper, truer stories about people and how they author a more hopeful and powerful future.
So you have done this in Brazil before, and you have now brought your creation to Detroit, and you're doing one called I.Detroit, and hence we're going to be speaking about that. And so it includes this book, this pretty heavy book here, which has the 100 people that you select. Well, you didn't. There was a group from here that chose 100 people to be part of this, and has their picture and other things in here, and tells their stories. And you use an app to kind of look at it, and it'll also be part of other things in downtown Detroit in 2020. So I guess what's the purpose of all of this? And these 100 people, is it focusing on the past, the future? What's the mission?
I suppose a human atlas is, in a sense, very simple. It's an attempt to bring together the voices of a group of remarkable people to inspire a new generation of leaders to author their lives, not in the shadows of those that came before, but in honor of them. So the purpose is really to set the bar high, to create a group of people who inspire another generation. And
Lashinda, you were one of the 100 people that were selected to be part of this. And so, and I know many people watching this are well aware of you and know who you are, but just for someone watching who may not know, what's your quick story and your tie to Detroit?
So I'm originally from Chicago. However, I moved here very young at 5 and was raised by mom and my stepdad. I had a brother who was killed when he was 30, and I have a sister who just turned 40 actually. But my story is one that is so much like so many other people, and I love to share the fact that where we start doesn't necessarily have to be where we end up. And so, you know, I've had a great career with the police department, a great education, and a lot of help along the way.
And you also talk about, I know a little bit about your story too, about growing up in challenging times, being in Detroit and having water shutoffs in the family and other things. So you had some tough times too growing up here.
Absolutely, and that so really impresses upon people that, you know, we're more alike than we are different.
And Wendy, the Kresge Foundation is a big supporter of this. And so what was it about this that made Kresge saying, yeah, we want to be part of this?
Well, the Kresge Foundation, through our Detroit program, we invest in a variety of nonprofits and nonprofit activities across the city. And arts and culture is one of our pillar program areas within our Detroit program. And so really, we view the arts as an important tool to inspire communities and individuals to kind of take on the impossible. And as a result of this program, I.Detroit, we thought it was an opportune time to think about, particularly as the city begins to rebound, to tell the stories, the cultural identity, the heritage, and the legacy of those that have been working on the front lines of change in the city that don't often get recognized through some of the various opportunities.
And just real quickly, Marcus, Mark Davidoff from Deloitte is one of the people who heard about this project you had done in Brazil and said you ought to bring this to Detroit. how does, with the project, real quickly, that you did in Brazil compare to how you're doing it here in Detroit? This is your second time, right, of doing this?
Yes, I mean, I think in when you're exploring a nation, it's a huge challenge. But here, coming to a city, we're able to really get under the skin of a place. And I think probably the most important thing to say here is that everyone who's in the project has been nominated by a fellow Detroiter. So this is not only the voice of the city, it is actually the heartbeat of the city. This is recording people who stayed, people who've been doing the hard work, many unsung heroes.
And we're going to be talking more about this. I know there was a committee that helped pick the 100 people. I know you came here and you have the idea of this, but they are the ones that picked all the people here. We're going to talk a little bit more about that, pay a few bills here ourselves. We'll be back with more Michigan Matters right after this. We're back and talking to Lashinda Stair of the Detroit Police Department, Marcus Lyon, artist of I.Detroit Project, and Wendy Lewis-Jackson of the Kresge Foundation, talking about the I.Detroit. So, Marcus, in putting this together, and these 100 people, you have been spending a lot of time taking pictures, videos of these 100 people. I know we're going to be showing some of these pictures on screen right here. How comprehensive was this? How much time did you spend with individuals?
We put a lot of time into the interview process and the process of getting to know people. So we really build it through this nomination process. So there's a group of city elders and people who know the city well, who've guided and given me insight into the process of putting these 100 together. And then we reach out to the individuals and then conduct a photographic session, an interview session, and we analyze their ancestral DNA. By bringing those three elements together, we can map people in a different way and create a human atlas.
And the DNA process, Lashinda, when you went through this, did you learn anything about your family you didn't know?
I absolutely did. I learned that my uncle had 2 daughters that none of us in our family knew anything about, and we connected in February of this year and have been communicating and trying to figure out a way to pull the entire family together.
Wow. And Wendy, is Kresge Foundation supporting this? There's the book which we've shown and videos. How is this going to roll out? I know it's going to be in 2020 in Detroit. How will people be able to see this? What is the expected or early, suggestions of how this is going to go?
Sure. The project right now is considered to be in 3 phases. So the first phase closes next Tuesday with the celebration by Marcus and his amazing team of the 100 individuals that were selected to participate. And then Marcus will go and finish the photography as well as putting the actual book together. And then we will come back and engage in the second and third phases, which will be a reveal, if you will, of who the 100 participants are, as well as starting to take this to the very neighborhoods where various participants came from.
Yeah. So, Marcus, when you were deciding whether or not that this project would be able to roll out in Detroit, given you had done a whole country in the first one, this is a city. What was it about Detroit that struck you?
Detroit feels like a really important city right now. It's a city of firsts in so many ways. Arsenal of democracy, the birthplace of Motown, city where the first production rolled out of cars. But in a sense, it's also a city that's seen some darker days. And it felt to me, with my anthropologist hat on, as though we had a chance to really explore one of the most important cities in the world. A city where if we can co-author the future in a more hopeful and positive way, we actually can answer many of the problems of the future.
So of the 100 people, I know you want to keep some of this under lid, you don't want to talk too much, but are there names of people? Are these all well-known people? Are these...
We try and have the full gamut. So we've got some people who are complete unknown heroes, and then there are others who are quite well known. But the purpose of our nomination process and our very careful construction of the 100 means that we're trying to leave no person behind, to go to every neighborhood, to go to every area of the city.
So it's the full fabric of Detroit and all this.
We hope so.
As I understand this too, you asked each person to pick a place that meant something to them to go film their interview. Is that correct?
Yes, indeed. We did the oral history piece in places of significance for people.
And Lashinda, where did you do your interview?
at public safety headquarters of all places.
And as part of this too, obviously your view of Detroit being in the, in law enforcement here and so forth, you're part of Detroit. How do you think the city's doing right now?
I think the city is doing so much better than it was before, and I'm very hopeful. And the one thing that we care about most in the city of Detroit, certainly as it relates to young people, is that they become hopeful and then have a vision and hopefully a plan.
Yeah. And real quickly, Wendy, before we go to break here, I know Kresge just announced it's going to be investing more with organizations in terms of diversity, having a bigger percentage tied to diverse organizations. And what was the impetus for that, real quickly?
Yeah, just an internal initiative. Our 25 by 25 initiative is a way for Kresge to walk the talk and start to look at how we can diversify those that handle our endowment and our investments.
Wow, and some really good stuff here. Well, I look forward to hearing more about that, and I look forward to having you all back here to talk about this exhibit as it's coming closer to fruition.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much for being here, and we'll be back with the roundtable and more Michigan Matters after this.